Are you willing to accept Christ's invitation to know Him more intimately, love Him more intensely, and follow Him more closely, and then go out into the world and live His good news? If you say yes, then you could be the 13th apostle. Join Dan Duddy and Tom Caffrey, the odd couple of Catholic radio, as they ride the radio waves 2 by 2 to share the goodness, beauty, and truth of Jesus Christ and His church. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the 13th apostle.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the 13th Apostle, where we explore the good, beautiful, and true of the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church. This is Tom Caffrey with my partner, Dan Duddy. How you, Dan?
Hey, Tommy. How you doing, buddy? You good?
You know, you sound like a head coach.
Yeah.
You sound like a head football coach.
Yeah.
Spirited and whatnot, lively.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, pretty snappy.
Yeah. Got a game to play. Let's go. Strap it on. Let's get ready to hit. I watched the national championship last night. Fired up. What a great football game.
Everybody on that field, that was their stage. They had a part to play.
Yeah, they played their hearts out. Well coached. Coach had them in the right positions according to their talents and their powers.
So the coach was the director.
Yep.
You know, here's the show.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But the fans did too, right? I mean, the audience.
Did what?
They had their part to play.
What was their part?
You know better than I do since you were a football coach. Do you prefer to play with nobody in the stands?
I always told, not always, when the situation called for it, I would tell my football team, men, we need to play this game out in the woods somewhere, knock down a few trees, make our own field, and play it where no one is watching. Because the game is really all about what's going on the battlefield, the man in the arena, right? You actually sent me that poem when I was coaching your son, young Kevin. Yeah, I mean, when I talk to the youth, I talk about whether you could choose to be a spectator, or you could choose to get in the game, you could change the game, you could, become the game. But you got to play within the rules. But you can definitely make your way on the field, and you could change the tide of the game by flexing your will. Usually,
What about that 12th man?
The 12th man up there, they're not as powerful as you might think. So playing the field.
What's the 12th man?
The 12th man is the crowd, the vibe, what's being given
in a football game.
Yeah,
or the 6th man in basketball, whatever.
Yeah, but you don't really hear them unless you're off the field. When you're on a football field, you are deaf. You are totally zoned out. I mean, I played high school football at a very well-established program, a very successful program. We had relatively the largest crowds, among the largest crowds in the state of New Jersey at our games. I didn't know they were there. You get on the field, you know your assignments. I mean, when I came off the field, and here this is how it goes. The more comfortable you got in the game, the more you looked in the bleachers, the more you turned around and looked, or the more you heard the cheerleaders, or the more you heard the band. But when you're in the fight, when you're in the battle, you're not looking around. You don't even know. It's as if they're not even there. Your task is such a grind. And you've prepared so hard and invested so much into that grind, and you trust your coach, you trust the playbook, you've practiced it all week, and you honor all your time that you've put in, and you get on the field, it's got to get done. And it's only 48 minutes of football. So it's here and gone. It's very, very quickly. And one play is only 4 seconds long.
When you came off the field, especially after a good play, maybe a score or whatnot, did you ever look in the stands for your girlfriend?
Well, there were so many of them. Like it's all...
See, when you said they, I said, "Oh boy, here we go."
I mean, like I didn't want to get caught looking at one and not see the other one. There's 6,000 of them, so I didn't really.
When you're the star QB, you got you could have just passed out your card. I mean.
Yeah, I could have, I guess. Yeah, maybe if I could go back in time, I'd get cards, little business cards.
Well, we're talking what prompted this topic this episode was, well, the connections, like different connections in life, and
Mhm.
uh, are we called to certain various stages in our life? Are we called to them? Whether it's doesn't have, yeah, this is a religious program, but the way you and I see life and the way we believe it, and I've said it many times, you do a biopsy of us, and hopefully you would see the letter C under the microscope for Christian. It's not what we do periodically, it's who we are. It informs every aspect of our life. Every breath we take, every breath we give, it's for Christ. And the people that we've met, that we come in contact with, that we've gotten to know, some closely, others not so closely. But it's like who we are, here we are today at this very moment. Who we are has a lot to do with the company we keep and the company we have kept. And that's for good or ill, right? If we're in bad company, especially in your formative years, you can be really affected by that. Um, and I thought about that partly with the funeral that we just attended. I don't, I often don't like the word attend. I often like to say we participated in,
Mhm.
because uh, yeah, I don't think that's stretching it. I think you could say, maybe you could say, like, going back to the football fans or the fans of anything, the spectators, which can be used in a derogatory way, which really shouldn't be. I mean, unless they're criticizing. So it's like you said, the man in the arena. Okay. Well, part of what Teddy Roosevelt was saying is, hey, you critics, you're criticizing the person in the arena, but you shouldn't do that unless you've been in there, with it. Like, if somebody's done a bad thing or they put on a bad show or whatever it was, we're a little different in when we compare matters of faith, like the funeral, like a mass. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Well, okay, if you don't like the homily, oh, I know, it was to the OCIA, or what most people would remember as RCIA, is to the college students that I teach, to prepare them to come into the church. Once you get into the church, there are things you're not going to like. And you might not like the priest's homily, but that priest is as imperfect as you are, you,
Mhm.
me, and the students, and of course you and me as well. Or you don't like the music, or you don't like the artwork, you don't like the type of building, you don't like the people in the pews, all this stuff. Well, that's not the faith. That's part of it, but that's not the essence of it, especially if you're talking the Mass or any of the sacraments. The sacrament is the sacrament. We've talked about that, the nuts and bolts of it. Our dear friend Deacon Chuck Kelly, that's right in the essence. It's the nut, but you and I talk about the shell is important as well. You have to have both parts of the nut. You got to have the meat of the nut, and you have to have the shell. And so everything is important. What are we called to do? Can we make connections? Can we facilitate these really good connections in our lives to make our lives better, to make our lives richer, to make other people's lives better and richer? All that stuff. It's with the Shakespearean reference to all the world's a stage. Yeah, I love that. And we believe that there's a director, but we're not puppets.
Mhm.
God is not manipulating everything, right? So, what are your thoughts on that, Duddy?
Well, a lot of thoughts. You said a lot there. You talked about stage. I'm going to go to the other something synonymous with stage, and actually, I guess it's a homonym. It's a stage that we're in as well on the stage. Going back to contacts and the stage that I'm in now at age 70, and seeing the men that I've come to know at St. Mary's in the men's groups, the various men's groups, one being that man is you, and the Bible group and Bagels. But seeing those men, I haven't seen some of those guys, Tom, for like 8, 9 years, and because we're men of Christ, we're in the same body, and we've contributed and participated in a lot of things together for Christ. We become unified. I don't remember names so much, perhaps, but I remember the person inside out because of the work that we did together and the things that we said together and the witness that we gave. And it was from each of those men, and I was reminiscing, including Jim Mulvihill, the deceased at this particular funeral. I reflected on how much I learned from them, you know. Dan Donlin, for example, who we hope to have on the radio someday. How Dan was always really, really, always made me feel special because somehow my words made his son, I believe his name's Kyle, right, feel
Right.
special.
Hmm.
And so that was very uplifting to me. And it's just not about me. I'm just talking about the human spirit and how important these revelations are that come from relationships, and how these feelings, these revelations, turn into callings. For example, on a small scale, but yet a not so small scale, because of Dan Donlin being humble enough to tell me how his son felt about something that was said in a presentation of mine, it commissioned me to want to do more of that. And it made me, and I have to fight with humility all the time, but it made me realize that that was a gift. And it's our gifts and talents that need to really have to be put out there, and put out there in a way that glorifies Christ, and to become more unified with Christ. And I think our callings absolutely do lie in the powers and talents. I'm going to summarize this and flip it back over to you, this part, in the powers and talents that we have. And those powers and talents are very, very much, very often light is shed upon them through our relationships with good, like-minded people that have that C, as you said, within them. Yeah, we cannot live alone, nor should we live alone, but we need each other in order to absolutely serve each other and beyond the people in our inner circle, because of the people that are in our inner circle.
Yeah, I think that's right on that the way you concluded that. Uh, I think it's important to have an inner circle.
Yeah, it is.
I think that men certainly, at least most of the men, or not, I don't know what I can say most, but many of the men in my life, if you've had a background in sports, it's so easily a default mechanism, which is fine. It's good because you associate, and you mentioned Jim Mulvihill, our dearly departed. So shocking to still say that he always, when he and I became friends, and then I got him to the two of you to meet, and then one thing led to another, and the friendship deepened and blossomed. Jim often said that, and he said that his wife noticed a difference. His wife, Brenda, noticed a difference in him once he got involved with us. It reminded him of being on a team and
Hmm.
how much he missed it. And he was talking about two teams. He was talking about his sports team and then his military combat team. And then after he retired from the military, he started his own business, he told me he did very, very well financially, and he rarely enjoyed it. And didn't matter the money, he missed the team. And I've referred to this numerous times. We've done a couple of episodes on what the social science and the medical research has shown over the last 30 years, the medical harm, the health problems that people can have when they're alone. And I just saw an article today referring to the chronic loneliness in America. It's not just America, but it's actually all over the world. I mean, I've read studies where, pick a country, it seems, not all of them. Uh, and circling back to this connectivity, you and I, we've said this before. You posted on your blog, what, 15 years ago, whatever it was, 18 years ago, I don't remember. But anyway, it was a fair number of years ago. And I still don't know how I came upon that.
Hmm.
And I read it and I said, oh my God. I said, finally, I am meeting somebody my age who's serious about the faith. And I hadn't really gotten much involved in my parish that I am now and have been for a while. But at that time, And then I commented in reply to your blog post, and we met, and here we are. If you hadn't done that, it's just like, okay, what part, were you called, was Providence having you make that post?
Hmm.
And was Providence helping me along? We're not puppets,
Hmm.
but there is this Providence, this sport, this force, this energy, and uh, and I do believe, when we certainly our Celtic roots, many people, well, we would call it paganism, but it's not a derogatory term because they weren't exposed to the scriptures yet.
Hmm.
But again, this sense of this energy, this spirit and whatnot, and the belief that, okay, if you're of a good spirit, and that's not something that was given to you. In other words, if you're a good person, somehow some good things, not every good thing, but some good things, and you're going to get to know other good people. You want a friend, be a friend.
Hmm.
The other, think about the other. And we're kind of, I don't want to say we're all over tonight. But it's all these connections. This connection where when I was talking to, teaching the students last night and talking about this and saying, one of the biggest problems is for young people is if they're in the church, they stop. But that's not just young people. We're talking about the young people, like Generation X and the Gen X. I don't get, the millennials. I don't get anything out of it. I don't get anything in mass or whatever the liturgy. I don't get anything out of it. And the whole point of any liturgy, the whole point of our lives is not ourselves. It's using ourselves out
Hmm.
to go up, and everything is toward God.
Yeah, and with each other too. That's a great point. So, and I don't think we're all over the place. I think we're going to connect what you're saying a little bit here. Is that to have the humility to serve, to go in and sacrifice within the sacrifice of the Mass, to give ourselves to the Mass, is also something we need to do in the spirituality of our relationships. So looking back to that blog that I wrote that brings us together here today, and that was 20 years ago. I did the math while you were
Wow.
talking. Yeah. That blog came from my relationship with a young guy, Lou Judd, down in Ohio, who I met at a retreat. And he inspired me to get a little bit more comprehensive on the football field with mentoring. Whereas I had boys coming to a Catholic school that were do anything to get into that locker room and be on the roster. And he inspired me to do something about that. So I did that. I got comprehensive with a mentoring program. And then I pulled a subgroup out of there called the Sword and Thunder. So we got a little bit more intimate with a bunch of like captain type kids, right? And that's when the blog was coming out of there. Gotcha. And it was from my relationship with the players. But was it really? It was really from this man, Lou Judd, to my players, players who then inspired me to continue with that because their lives were getting touched. Their families were exploding forward, having been touched by it. Tom Caffrey becomes my very dear friend. Here we are 20 years later, and Tom Caffrey's email is tomcaffrey at faithpilgrims.com. And we have the 13th apostle, and who knows what's up next for us on this stage at age 70, on the stage on the stage, where it's our relationships that really inspire and really fan the fire and opens the door to allow us to express these God-given powers and talents. And by doing so, we fulfill callings, we answer callings. It's relationship based. It's truly relationship based. What can I do? You got to be humble enough to do it, though.
Oh,
Because I easily could have competed with him down there, Lou Judd, down in Ohio. Oh, what are you doing? Yeah, I could do that too, like, you go do your thing, I'll go do my thing. But no, I got to fight that all the time. I mean, I'm a football coach.
I know.
Yeah, I
I
have to
know.
fight it. I confess it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of, so we're talking about what are you giving? Because you will get from the giving. I've experienced that throughout so much of my life, having gotten, and it's almost like I have to watch myself saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. Am I really doing it for that other person I'm doing? Because I know I'm going to get a good thing from it, a good feeling or
Exactly.
whatever." All
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
But, I thought, going back to Jim Mulvihill and talking about his wife, Brenda, oh, it's in sickness and in health.
Hmm.
For the last several years, maybe 5 years, she's ministered to him. And the last 2 or 3 years have been very, very difficult until his end a week or so ago. And then I think of in my family, I think of we've talked about my sister Carolyn and her great difficulty, and I see how her husband Bob, no spring chicken, how he's rallied to support her and doing things, that I don't know whether he ever imagined doing, but how he's doing things just in day-to-day life to support her. How two other sisters have, Linda and Claire, how they have really done yeoman's work to help Carolyn. All this giving, this selfless giving is just a beautiful thing to experience. And that should make us want to, pay it forward, right? It should make us want to pay it forward. And you look for opportunities just either to help out or really bad stuff. You want to help somebody carry their cross.
Yeah.
That's what we do. So
Yeah. You don't
it's
love, you don't get. You don't love, you don't get. It's
exactly.
you can't have it both ways. It's taking is just it's loveless. Loveless.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's I see a lot of emptiness out there. I hear the students, it's kind of fresh because where some of them, had no direction.
Yeah.
And but they found out from a friend
Mm-hmm.
about this Catholic group,
Mm-hmm.
out of college, right?
Yeah.
And okay, well, there's the benefit of that relationship because then there's some trust in there. Okay. I don't know that I would have been courageous enough to enter this group myself, but every apostle was
Amen. Great point.
invited by Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Come and see.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he say, come and see. And so I think there, obviously, you're talking about a supernatural element, and but once you get past that, then you're going by trust, and that's hard a lot of times, to trust unless you know the person very well. But sometimes you don't know the person very well, so hopefully, if it doesn't work out, you don't get hurt by it or hurt too badly. But as you said, you got to put yourself out there.
You
Got
do
to be in
absolute
the arena.
trust. Yeah, man. Absolute trust. Put you like right in that greased groove, and it makes you fly. Those young kids that you're talking about, wow, they're gonna have an exciting life. They're just getting started. They're blessed to have you. Blessed to
Well,
have you.
you and I've had an exciting life.
Just
I
getting
would
started, brother.
I would like a little bit less excitement, but you're. Yes, I just was watching Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring last night, and when it really hits Frodo that all that's happened, the bad stuff that's happened because of this ring, and that he got it, and he tells Gandalf, the wise elder, and he's, in some ways the Christ-like figure, and he says, I wish that had never happened to me. I wish that the ring had never come to me. And Gandalf says, so do all of us who find ourselves in situations like this. But
Mm,
that's not for us to decide. It's up to us to decide what to do now that we have this
amen.
ring. And I'm putting ring in quotes, whatever our burden is,
Mm.
whatever our task is. So, okay. I'm just thinking, is there anything else I got? Oh, real quickly, I want to tell them. So I told you about this. So at the funeral mass with our dear friend Jim Mulvihill, Monsignor Ken, my pastor, had just given instructions to the people. Do you know at a funeral you get all people, many of them not Catholic or they're not practicing Catholic, whatnot. So he took a minute to explain clearly how you're supposed to, if you can receive communion, how you're supposed to do it. So I had my head down. I was in the front pew, and I had received the sacrament, and so I had my head down in prayer. But I heard this commotion in front of me. I look up, and it's this blur, and next thing I know, Monsignor Ken was running like it was about 15, 20 feet after this man who hadn't put the host in his mouth.
Hmm.
And I thought, what a great witness this is to everybody, and including Catholics like you and me, but to others. This is what we believe about this sacrament. In
Hmm.
fact, we're the only ones that have this sacrament.
Right.
To have a priest to run after to let, hey, that's Jesus.
Yeah, man.
If you don't believe that, give it back.
Yeah, just look at
Okay?
me. I'm running after that dude. Yeah.
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
great. Like an open field tackle. And And then I talked to Father, I talked to several people about this. It was so beautiful. I told my senior, and I told our friend Father Jim Hutchins about it, and he said he was thrilled, and he said, the Protestant pastors don't chase after their communicants when they get the piece of bread. That was beautiful. Danny, we got to wrap it up.
That was a
What's coming up
mouthful.
next, man?
Stay tuned for the Angelus, folks, and your prayer intentions with Peter and Jemmy.
WQPHradio.org. Love you, everybody. Love you, Danny.
Love you, Tommy. Love you all.
Thank you for listening to the 13th Apostle with Dan Duddy and Tom Caffrey. For more information on Dan, visit his website at www.danduddy.com or email dcduddy@gmail.com. Tom's website is faithpilgrims.com or email trcaffrey@faithpilgrims.com. How about you? Will you be the 13th Apostle?